Alright, let's talk about Skyrim, the game that somehow turned Bethesda from the guys who make weird open world RPGs into the studio your aunt recognizes when she buys her kid a gaming laptop. Skyrim should not have worked the way it did. It simplified almost every RPG system that made Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Morrowind, Oblivion, and even New Vegas memorable. And yet it became one of the most successful Western RPGs ever made. So what happened? Let's start with the obvious part. Skyrim is not a deep role-playing game. It just isn't. You don't have attributes like strength, endurance, charisma. You don't have real dialogue trees. You don't have meaningful faction consequences, and you don't have role-defining character builds. At best, you have shallow, simplified versions of all those. Most build guides boil down to, do you want to bonk things, shoot things, or throw sparkles until they fall down? And yet Skyrim worked. It was a huge success, and not just financially. It became a cultural event. So let's answer the question, why is Skyrim so loved by so many when it barely qualifies as an RPG? To understand that, we need to rewind to the early 2000s. Role-playing games were heavily systems-driven. Morrowind, Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Vampire the Masquerade. These were games where your build mattered more than your reflexes. You lived and died by dice. You read. You planned. You failed quests because your speech skill was garbage and nobody listened to you. Skyrim did the opposite. Skyrim said, everyone is the Dragonborn. Everyone is the Chosen One. Everyone can shout at dragons. Everyone has cool kill cams, and nobody needs to read a single stat sheet ever again. Skyrim democratized the RPG. It took a genre built for people who loved character sheets and turned it into something a 12-year-old could enjoy on a console after school. This is the first analytical point most people miss. Skyrim wasn't a traditional RPG. It was an open-world power fantasy with RPG flavoring. It wasn't trying to be Morrowind 2, it was trying to be accessible. And accessibility sells. But accessibility alone doesn't explain why Skyrim became a cultural moment. A bunch of accessible games come and go every year. The second reason Skyrim worked is because of its world, not its story. That part is famously mediocre at best. It worked because of the space itself. Skyrim's map is one of the best open worlds ever built, because it does one thing perfectly. It rewards wandering. In Skyrim, you can walk out of Riverwood in any direction and you will find something. A bandit cave, a Dwemer ruin, a random shrine, a weird NPC yelling about stolen sweet rolls, a mound of snow with a corpse that has a journal next to it. The game constantly hands you tiny mysteries that you resolve simply by existing. What's that tower? Who lives there? Why is there a dead body here? That feedback loop triggers the same part of your brain that Minecraft and Elden Ring trigger. Pure discovery dopamine. And that's where traditional RPG fans get Skyrim wrong. They judge it by the systems it removed instead of the systems it improved. Skyrim replaced character depth with world intrigue. It replaced dialogue branching with environmental storytelling. It replaced party dynamics with player-centric discovery. It's an RPG for people who want to explore, not people who want to roleplay a dysfunctional wizard with 5 intelligence and a drinking problem. Let's talk about combat for a second. Skyrim's combat is not good in a mechanical sense. Swinging a sword often feels like hitting a loaf of bread with a wet noodle. Magic is flashy but shallow. Archery is the only skill tree that feels designed by someone who actually plays video games. But combat wasn't the point. Combat was the friction between discoveries. It was there to justify loot and level ups and slow motion decapitation animations. It was a spectacle delivery system. Skyrim understood something that most RPGs at the time didn't. Combat doesn't need to be complex if it's satisfying. Click, enemy flinches, XP noise, loot body, feels good. That loop is dopamine friendly, low investment, and extremely repeatable. Now compare that to something like New Vegas. New Vegas is a better RPG by almost every metric that matters to actual role-playing. Better writing, better characters, better factions, better choice consequence systems, better quest logic. But New Vegas does not give you the same dopamine per minute ratio as Skyrim. New Vegas expects you to think. Skyrim expects you to wander. Skyrim is fast food. New Vegas is a 5-course meal. and fast food sells more. Let's move to aesthetics, because this is another category that Skyrim quietly dominated. Skyrim looks good, not in a realistic graphics way. The facial animations are stuff nightmares are made of, but in the sense of art direction, Nordic ruins, Dwemer architecture, snowy peaks, yellow forests, gray marshes, auroras at night. Skyrim made every screenshot look like a postcard. Todd once said they wanted players to see something interesting every 30 seconds. And honestly, Skyrim delivered that. If you throw a rock in Skyrim, you'll hit a scenic vista, a massive ruin, or a dragon fight. Meanwhile, in New Vegas, you throw a rock, and you probably hit a rock. The next major reason Skyrim worked has nothing to do with Bethesda at all. It's the modding community. Skyrim was built like a canvas. It launched with the creation kit ready, and within a year, modders turned it into a completely different game. Higher textures, ENBs, survival mods, perk overhauls, animation packs, new quests, companion systems. Skyrim's real RPG depth came from modders, not Bethesda. That's why Skyrim is still alive today. That's why people have thousands of hours on Steam. That's why Skyrim became the game you always reinstall. Skyrim shipped as an accessible open-world adventure, and modders filled in the role-playing gap. So if we ask why Skyrim worked, here's the analytical breakdown. Number 1. Accessibility. No dice, no stats, no reading. Just adventure. Number 2. Discovery. People love wandering more than they love dialogue choices. Number 3. Aesthetics. The world is beautiful enough to screenshot forever. Number 4. Modding. Todd sold the game. Modders sold the experience. Number 5. Power fantasy. Being the Dragonborn is fun. Shouting dragons out of the sky is fun. Now here's the problem. Skyrim's success damaged Bethesda. Not financially, of course. Financially, Skyrim printed money, but creatively, Skyrim taught Bethesda the wrong lessons. It taught them that simplifying systems leads to more sales. It taught them that accessibility beats depth. It taught them that people don't want to roleplay, they want to explore. And so when Bethesda went to make Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 and eventually Starfield, they doubled down on the accessibility and the discovery and completely abandoned the roleplaying. That's why Fallout 4 has a simpler 4-button dialogue wheel compared to previous Fallouts. That's why Fallout 4 has a voiced protagonist. That's why Fallout 4 turned special into an ammo-based perk vending machine. Fallout 4 is Skyrim with guns. And I said it before, I like Fallout 4, it works very well as a shooter, but it's not a great RPG. And when Starfield came out, Todd tried to do Skyrim again, but in space, wide worlds, low consequences, low friction. But space doesn't work like Skyrim, because Skyrim compresses wonder into a dense map. Starfield spreads it across 1,000 barren moons with nothing on them. The Skyrim formula doesn't scale to galaxies. Skyrim worked because it was dense, not just because it was simple. Yes, Skyrim's simplicity enabled more people to play, but the density gave them something to do. Starfield copied the simplicity and forgot the density. Fallout 4 copied both the simplicity and density. That's why Fallout 4 works as a game, while Starfield doesn't. Meanwhile, the studios Bethesda used to compete with went in the opposite direction. Obsidian doubled down on writing. Larian doubled down on systems. From Software doubled down on mastery. CDPR doubled down on world building. After a stumble, but still, Bethesda doubled down on accessibility, and that's not a direction, that's a designed safety net. Skyrim wasn't a real RPG, but it respected the fantasy. You felt like a hero. You felt like you discovered things. You felt like you shaped the world, even if you really didn't. Starfield doesn't do that. They removed the role-playing depth, and they forgot to replace it with fantasy depth. That's why people replay Skyrim, as well as Fallout 4. That's why nobody replays Starfield. So why did Skyrim work? Because it found the sweet spot between simple mechanics, strong fantasy, constant discovery, and modders filling the gaps. That combination has proven hard to replicate, not even by Bethesda themselves. Ultimately, even though Skyrim wasn't a true RPG, it was a true adventure. And that's why Skyrim worked.